And then the three highest placed teams after the regular season from each division, and then two wild card teams per conference, which we'll talk about, enter the playoff in an elimination tournament to determine
Terminant.
terminant
Terminant.
determined to turn him
Terminant.
determinant.
Anemone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Blair.
And I'm Kirsten, and we are mediocre content. And I still have peanut butter stuck in my teeth.
Wow.
Sorry, I can feel it on my lips. I tried. I said I was ready.
She wasn't ready, everyone. She was not ready.
I needed a snack. Well, welcome to April.
Yes.
Quarter 2, 2023. Here we go.
All right. Don't say it like that.
Welcome to your business meeting. We'd like to talk about our analytics from last quarter. And
No. No.
What are those those business lingo TikToks now? I love just setting up for the next quarter, and I can't remember all of them now.
I like the ones where it's how to be passive aggressive, but in business.
Yes.
It's
how do
best.
I professionally say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the best ones. It is tax season, which is also fun. In the same vein, just to bring everybody down another notch here.
Wow. Okay, we'll have to start this over. We actually filed our taxes already, and it was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris really enjoys doing the taxes. Like, as soon as January rolls around, he's like, okay, give me all your W-2s. I'm like, I haven't gotten all my W-2s
Literally,
yet,
the majority don't even release till February. Get a grip.
I know. And he's like, I'm so excited. I'm so ready to get it all set up and everything. I'm like, you're married to someone who loves math or when they're excited to do the taxes.
At least I know where Tyler and I stand, because that is not the case here.
You know what? I'm cool with it. I'm like, yes, please do my taxes.
Please,
I love you the most. Please do my taxes.
Oh, gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies too.
I do have something to tell you.
Yay. Okay.
That I find to be amazing. It's not going as swimmingly right now as I thought, which is fine, but I thought about you when I made this purchase.
Oh.
So I don't know if I've said it yet, but we are going to take a vacation with some friends in May to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
This set of friends, their daughter usually would watch our fur babies, but she's unable to do that because she's on the trip. That would be very difficult.
Yeah, sure.
I digress. So we're thinking, okay, we need a new pet sitter. I've been talking to the pet sitter. She is fantastic. The cats love her. All is well. However, in the morning, she can't get in until like 9 o'clock. And if you know anything about Puma, a little change in schedule, we have VOMs,
yes,
which is really stressful.
Yeah.
So we made the leap of faith and we purchased auto feeders.
Yay! Oh my god, it's gonna change your whole life.
It hasn't yet. It's driving me crazy. So let me tell you this really brief saga of how it's been for the last week with these stupid auto feeders.
I am so excited. This is not the trajectory I thought this conversation was going to go, and
Where
I
did
love
you
it.
think I was going?
I don't know. You were leading up to it. Like, is she going to break up with me? Like, what's happening?
I'm really sorry, but it's not working out, and I just wanted to tell you in front of everyone.
It's not you. It's me.
No, it's 100% you. So, so I purchased these ones specifically because they had the most reviews, and also it could convert into a 2-feeder. And for perspective, we have 3 cats, so we need one that's a 2-feeder, and then Lynx kind of eats by himself because he's picky, and also Cougar hates him. But I digress.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The setup of this thing was ridiculous. First of all, the directions were basically the most unhelpful thing on this planet, and I thought I was setting everything up correctly, but it kept timing out because it's supposed to hook to the Wi-Fi so you could set up the feeding schedule or manually. It's like way more advanced than I anticipated. I just wanted an auto feeder, right?
Yeah, right.
So I kept trying to hook it to the Wi-Fi and it wouldn't hook. Turns out I'm just an idiot. I kept typing in my Wi-Fi password wrong and it kept timing out because I typed it in wrong. So
user error.
That was me for 45 minutes. I literally almost packed it up and sent it back because I was an idiot.
Rage quit
the stupid feeders, but it worked out. And then here's the fun part. So we've been feeding the cats manually our whole lives, obviously, because that's what you do. You feed your animals on your own.
Right.
This has confused and befuddled all three of them. Can I just tell you? So problem number one is that they did not love the noise of the food exiting violently out of this machine. It sounds so chaotic, and Puma, in her skittish ways, the food would start spitting out and she would run away. She said no, and you know her, like, she loves to eat.
Oh my God.
And so Cougar, the only intelligent one of the three, figured it out immediately. She's on board. She's here for it.
Also, I would like to say, as far as I know, the most food driven of all.
She's very intelligent and very food driven. She will get it done. Cougar's great. Puma's a little wary. Lynx, completely confused. Does not compute. I put his food in the food bowl, refusing to eat, and I could not. So what I decided is I was going to set the feeder up and let it pour into the bowl, because he likes to do a little dancey dance around the bowl as he eats. So I'm like, okay, maybe his fat head can't fit underneath. So
cute. I love that so much.
He's so stupid. Maybe his fat head can't fit underneath.
Right.
And so I'll just raise it up and let the food just drop into it. And then he can do his little dancey dance and it not be inhibited by the machine, because he's like hitting his head. Well, that didn't work. He still hates the bowl. So then I was like, okay, well, I have it raised up. Maybe he wants his bowl. And now that I have it raised up, it doesn't really matter what bowl it's in, because it's going to just fall in.
Right.
This morning, I have to pick him up, put him in front of the bowl as it's spewing into the bowl, and he sniffs it and he's like, okay, I'm getting it. And then I leave and he's following me up the stairs. I'm like, no, you need to go eat. So I pick him up again, and he's not light.
No.
Put him by the feeder and he's like, munch. I walk away. He's like, where are we going, Mom? And I'm like, you need to eat. Just leave me alone. You are destroying the purpose of an auto feeder if you don't go eat.
Have we considered the possibility that he will eat? He will figure it out if he gets hungry enough. Have we thought about that?
I did, but here are the problems.
Okay.
The girls will just eat everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So I need him to at least initially start eating, and then if they want to graze later, they can figure it out amongst themselves.
Yeah.
But I need him to just initially eat, get it done, and be done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
does he? So I have questions. So have we tried isolating him in like his own little room when he eats? Just to like take away any of the other like external stimulation, the other cats and all that stuff.
So no, but also there's nowhere else to put it. So this is also something that annoys me with these. I'm not 100% sold on them. I still might return them and get something different if I'm not, whatever.
That's fair.
But the peculiar thing about this is the system itself requires you to put batteries in it, but it cannot run off batteries alone unless it's an emergency situation and is required to be plugged in. So I could move it if it would just run off the batteries, but because of the fact that it requires to be plugged in, there's only a certain space in our dining room
that has that.
Put him. Yeah. So, and it's not, he's been eating with the girls. That's not a problem. He's just ADHD. I don't really know. Like he wants to do his dancey dance. So we solved that problem. He's doing his dancey dance and he's loving it. Which really just consists of him walking around his bowl, like eating like this with his neck. And for
like a dog,
like a dog, he just got to do his. He's really the most dog cat I've ever owned. Which disturbs Puma. She stares at him every time he does it. Like, that is so weird. But we've solved that problem. Now I just need them to do it on their own without me there, because currently they will only go if I'm standing next to the bowls as they're spewing out the food. And it'll probably take time. It's only been a week.
I was going to say, you might just need more time.
It's only been a week. It has gone off when we haven't been here because it's scheduled for like their normal time at 4:30. Because I was like, this will get you used to like really eating on a schedule.
Yeah.
Instead of whenever we get back from stuff. But like, I don't know. That's just
it's so obviously we started our cats on the automatic feeder very young because there were more instances than not that we were coming home late.
Right.
And because of the nature of our jobs and stuff. So and the other thing is that we like to go on little vacations or travel or whatever. So we want to make sure that they're fed. And we don't always want to pay for somebody to come over, even if it's just for like a day or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
But I will say that it does take a little bit of time for them to acknowledge the fact that like you're not the one feeding them anymore. It's the feeder that's feeding you. Yeah. So I would say continue like acting like you're gonna go and like
pretend to feed,
do it, and then just like let them watch the food come out.
Yeah.
And then hopefully after a certain number of weeks, maybe Link's a little bit longer because know he's a little special.
That one is so slow.
Then they'll kind of like get the vibe, and then they'll be independent of you.
I'm so hoping. I think Cougar definitely is just like, I now associate. Puma is like, I'm scared of it, but also I'm gonna eat now.
Yeah.
And then, Lynx is just left field doing what he do. He's so special.
He's a special boy.
Anyway, that was really long-winded. I just wanted to share that.
I thank you for that. Speaking of cat gadgets that I recently purchased, I bought, have you seen on TikTok the little like the little fishes that they put in the sink, and they're like electronic, and so I bought those.
Oh,
the
so
cats,
cute.
And we fill up a little bucket. When it gets a little bit warmer outside, I'm gonna do it. Like it'll be an outside activity.
Precious.
But I put 2 fish in there and like some little plastic plants and stuff, and oh my god, they were both just obsessed.
Oh my god,
immediately obsessed. Salem was like putting his paw in the water. He was just like dunking it everywhere and then spewing water everywhere.
Naturally.
He like tried to sniff it and then got his nose wet, and it was really cute.
He said, oof.
He was like, this is not what I thought it was.
Not it. No, that's great. That's adorable.
And they like pull out the fishes, and then I put them back in. It's very nice.
They're like, look what I caught. And you're like, garbage. Throw it
Good
back.
job, guys. Do it again.
Here's what I think about your gift. Dang, Blair.
I think it's good for them. It's stimulation. They get to use their prey drive. It's perfect.
It is perfect. That's cute.
It's like we have a pond, but I don't have to worry about it. And then Chris was like, he's like, so I guess we're not going to get fish anytime soon.
No, because now they're going to be like, I'm going to eat those.
It's like the pretty electronic ones that Mom bought us. So we can totally just stick our paws in there and fish them out.
Same.
Not the same.
What a great lesson.
It was awesome.
I see that you also have some notes in here.
I do, yes.
Did you want to go over that?
I wanted to give ourselves a little pat on the back today.
Okay.
Because this episode marks our 20th episode. And although it is not a milestone like a 50th episode or 100th episode, I just feel like because we deserve a little pat on the back, because every once in a while you need a little pat on the back. So here's some statistics for us.
Okay.
There are currently around 3 to 4 million podcasts out there. Okay. 44% of those podcasts have less than 3 episodes. So we have made it past that mark.
There's a threshold.
We have made it past that mark pretty significantly.
Those are the ones that just gave up. They're like, no, this is not for me.
Right. Only 720,000 podcasts have more than 10 episodes. We've also made it past that.
Okay.
All right. And also, of those 720,000 podcast episodes, only 156 podcasts are released every week.
Nice. Okay.
So we are in the 1%. We're in the
we are. we are also, we just closed out our 6 months of our podcast. I thought about that yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, we have been doing this for 6 months. It's so awesome.
So although we don't have the listening audience that a lot of other podcasts do,
yeah, we are still hitting it.
We're doing okay. Yeah. I feel we're doing all right. We're plugging along
for a podcast that started just because.
That's right.
That's about right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing those statistics.
So yay us on our 20th episode. We're out here doing it, man.
And thank you to those who do consistently listen. You don't understand how much it is so exciting because we see all the statistics on the background. I'm sorry if you can see Puma trying to get into my arms right now. I'm so sorry.
She said, Mom, I want to come give you a hug.
Great statistic. Oh my God. Okay. So I'm holding her now. But for those who do listen, it's so fun to see the statistics when we release an episode and see that people have listened. And so thank you for listening and for making this, like, it's for us, but it's also for the few of you that do listen.
Yeah, we love you guys. Thanks so much.
Lots of love. And with that love, we will also disclaim
indeed we will. If you've been around for the past 20 episodes, you know we are dumb. No, I'm just kidding. We don't know anything. But we are not experts. We want to make sure that you don't get any advice from this podcast. We like to teach you things. But make sure to do your own research if you feel like we've missed something, or you can reach out to us and say, hey, you missed something and you're wrong. Please fix it. And we will.
Just say that exactly. You are wrong.
Yes. And then we'll message you back and be like, hey, I need a little bit more context. Because I believe you. I probably am wrong, but I just need a little context, please.
Spitting facts. All right. I want to hear some good news from you.
Yes. Okay. All right. So this first one is about Harvey, and Harvey is a husky. Aww. Harvey was adopted by a lady named Sherry Langston, who was scrolling through social media in Seattle and saw that Harvey needed to be adopted at a animal shelter in San Diego.
Okay.
So her first thought was like, well, he lives 1,200 plus miles away. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to adopt this dog. But then she was like, well, let me look at plane tickets and let me see what's going on here. And so, then she got in touch. So the San Diego Department of Animal Services kept like posting, and in particular, a woman named Joy Ollinger kept posting about Harvey. Aww. And, because she had developed a relationship with Harvey, and wanted him to be adopted. So, the thing about Harvey, though, is that his face is lopsided. And he kind of looks like a doofus 24/7, 365.
I love that you posted the picture.
It's I wanted you to see the picture because it is so stinking cute.
It is
and
cute.
Like some would say, he does not look like your ideal husky. He's not the most beautiful, but he is so stinking cute.
He is cute.
He just looks like a doofus all the time, and it's so good.
Me too, Harvey. Me too.
Right. So basically, she messages Joy, and says, hey, I really am interested in this dog. And Joy was like, great, come down to San Diego and you can have this dog. And they did. And now Harvey lives with another dog. The family there, because they have 2 kids and a dog already. And then they brought Harvey in to that family as well.
Aww.
So he lives his life with his new dog friend as well as his new fam. And it's adorable. He's so cute.
He is so cute. Oh, I'm glad he found a forever home. That's great.
Yeah. So always a good news when a cute little dog who may not be your stereotypical family dog,
Yeah. He has a new home.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to Staten Island.
Whew, all the way on the other coast.
And we're going to talk about the Granny restaurant.
Okay.
It's called Enoteca Maria.
Ooh.
And basically, this guy, his name is Joe Scaravella, Italian. And he basically started a restaurant after his grandmother, sister, and mother passed away. And he started the restaurant on the basis of like the best meals in your life are usually made by your grandmother.
Oh my gosh.
So he invites grandmothers. Originally it was like Italian grandmothers, but from all different kinds of ethnicities and cultures, and they take turns making food for the restaurant.
That is so cute. I might cry. Oh my gosh.
So the Staten Island, New York eatery has a unique concept with the idea that no one cooks a more heartful meal better than a grandmother. The restaurant is home to a rotating cast of grandmothers, or nanas, as they call them, who cook the meals they've been providing for their families for generations. When it first opened, it only featured Italian nanas, but now the roster includes grandmothers from Sri Lanka, Azerbaijan,
okay. Yeah, that's
Trinidad, Syria, Japan, and beyond.
That is beautiful. And
Isn't it?
live near New York and I need to go.
Yeah.
And visit this place.
You need to do some on-site reporting and tell us how it is.
Oh my gosh. That is precious. Between my mom and my grandma's cooking, 10 out of 10.
Right. Yeah. So it's giving Ratatouille. It's giving like in the sense of like your home cooking is the best cooking, right? It is. Like
always feels better.
So yeah. Anyway,
that's lovely.
I'm going to hand it over to you now so we can talk about something totally not related to that.
Yeah. I mean, grandma might like hockey games. I don't know. It's my current obsession.
Canadian grandmas probably.
Canadian grandmas for sure. Okay. So in all honesty, this episode is a product of my current obsession with the NHL, which is National Hockey League, for those who are unaware. The reason that this happened, just a backstory for me, is we live in Rhode Island and we have the Providence Bruins, which go up to the Boston Bruins in Massachusetts. And we went to just for funsies, a singular hockey game for the Providence Bruins. And I have been hooked ever since. I watch it on TV. I follow the statistics. We follow certain games just for certain teams. And I don't think I'll ever be the same again.
She moves to the Northeast one time.
And it's a done deal. I mean,
it's no, but right. I no shade to you at all, because I lived in Pittsburgh for a time.
For so long.
For a time. And
long enough.
I went to my fair share of hockey games, and it is a vibe.
It is
unlike any other sport. It's fast paced. There's a lot going on. There's
the energy is violent.
The energy is violent. It's like a great release of like negative energy for something positive, and it's just
I'm here for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to like, you can rage appropriately in an appropriate setting.
And everyone is with you. So that is just a little bit of background there. That said, the one thing I do want to note, as always, we'll do like a little bit of history on the NHL. And it's important to say that the NHL was not like what it is today always. It's actually a predecessor to a different league altogether. And if you know a lot about the Northeast and the upper North America, you know where Canada exists, and their obsession with hockey runs far deeper than that of the United States. Just for
they start skating before they can walk.
Absolutely. So actually, the Canadian version that the NHL is the predecessor to is called the National Hockey Association, and this began in Canada in 1909. The National Hockey Association was a professional ice hockey organization with teams in Ontario and Quebec, Canada specifically. And the NHL was founded by Ambrose O'Brien, who introduced what is a six-man hockey by removing the specific rover position in 1911. And we'll talk about positions and things like that later, but that's kind of where all of this punched off. Obviously, there's other leagues and associations and all that stuff, but this is all I care about right now.
So got it.
This is where we're focusing. The National Hockey League was officially formed in 1917 and started with 4 Canadian teams, to which the first U.S. team, the Boston Bruins, was added to in 1924. The initial 4 Canadian teams for the 1917 launch of the NHL was the Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Wanderers, Ottawa Senators, and Quebec Bulldogs. And the NHL did become the strongest league in North America, and in 1926 would take a permanent position of the Stanley Cup, which is a trophy that represents essential world supremacy in ice hockey. And that headquarters is now in New York City.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. The league for the NHL, the membership rose to about 10 and then dropped, and it's just kind of been fluctuating as teams would come and go throughout the NHL. Sure. It did hold steady at about 6 teams, which are now known as the original 6, and that was from 1942 to 1967. Those teams were the Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, so still holding strong, New York Rangers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
All of those I've heard of before.
Yes, exactly. And maybe the original 4, probably not many have heard. The Ottawa Senators, I believe, are still there's still a team.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So lots of fluctuation. There was a lot of changeover. There was also, we'll talk about, how they're currently dispersed team-wise nowadays, but there was also a lot of dispersion, upheaval, and back and forth. After various periods of expansion and reorganization, the NHL now consists of 32 teams in 2 conferences and 4 divisions. And like I said, we'll talk about what that looks like. The Hockey Hall of Fame was created in 1943, and it had its first inductees selected in 1945. There is a giant list of names, and I can definitely go over them if we're interested in hearing them. I've never heard of these people before, but they were just the first inductees. If you just want to hear a bunch of names.
I like the bottom 2 where it's like Sir Montague Allen and Lord Frederick Stanley.
Okay, how about we go through these? I wrote them down, so why not? They're fun to say. Howie Morenz, Art Ross, Georges Vezina, Dan Bain, Hobie Baker, Doobie Bowie, which is also fun to say, Chuck Gardner, Eddie Gerard, Frank McGee. Wow. Super long name. Tommy Phillips, Harvey Pulford, Hod Stewart, Sir Montague Allen, and Lord Frederick Stanley. Those are the last 2, and now Blair's favorite. In 1960, the Canadian National Exhibition, City of Toronto, and NHL reached an agreement for the construction of a building to house the Hockey Hall of Fame on the Canadian National Exhibition grounds. And that would open in August 1961 and then move to its present location in New York in 1993, which is the year of my birth. So that's great.
Whoop, whoop.
Fun fact, it is the formal Bank of Montreal that was built in 1885 and the only building on the block to survive Toronto's Great Fire of 1904. So super funsies for
historical fact.
Yeah, fast facts. By the mid-1960s, the desire for a network television contract in the United States, coupled with concerns for Western Hockey League, was planning to declare itself a major league and challenge the Stanley Cup, spurred the NHL to undertake its first expansion since the 1920s. The league would double in size to 12 teams, which was huge then. I mean, next to the 32 there are now. From 1967 to 68 season. And they would also add the Los Angeles Kings and Minnesota North Stars, the Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, which you should definitely know about.
Whoop, whoop. Gotta see them at the Igloo.
The California Seals and the St. Louis Blues. However, Canadian fans were obviously enraged that all of these teams were strictly in the United States, which is fair considering where it came from.
Yeah, no, totally. We stole it.
Absolutely. We said we're taking that. So the league decided to add the Vancouver Canucks, which is still around, in 1970, along with the Buffalo Sabres, both of which would be located on the Canadian-US border. 2 years after that, there was the emergence of the newly founded World Hockey Association, or WHA, led the league to add the New York Islanders, Atlanta Flames, and to keep the rival league out of those markets. So they're just having a lot of competition with other leagues, because I did mention this is not the only league in existence and certainly wasn't at the time. So there's just a lot of competition for taking the Stanley Cup, which is a big deal. And in 1974, the Washington Capitals, which I personally really enjoy, and the Kansas City Scouts were added and brought the league to 18 teams. The expansion era was continuing to evolve, and like I said previously, there's a lot of fluctuation during that time of the additions and subtractions. But like I mentioned today, they're nicely divided and equally dispersed across the states and Canada. So if you don't know anything about hockey,
can I do a quick segue?
Or not yes.
Not a segue, but an intro. Like,
yeah.
So you said Vancouver Canucks, and I was like, what the heck is a Canuck? And so I looked it up, and a Canuck is another word for a Canadian.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's sometimes carrying a negative implication, but more often it is wielded with pride. That's all I wanted. I just wanted you guys to know, because I didn't know.
Blair's over there Googling what is like Canuck. I love it.
For those who don't know, because I don't know.
I didn't know that either. It's kind of funny.
Sounds like a duck or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it a type of bird? We don't know. It's not.
It's more funny. It's kind of like same, because it's like Vancouver is also in Canada. So it's like Canadian.
Right. No, yeah. Exactly. It's like redundant kind of.
Yeah. I like it though.
All right. Sorry. I just had to.
No, it's fine. Yeah. If you don't know though, whether it's Canadian or not, hockey can be really aggressive, and certainly has its fair share of fights, which everybody loves. So there are obviously big, lots of research and conscientiousness, similar, I would assume, to kind of football, about player safety.
Sure.
Because again, similar to the NFL, the NHL is also paying these players to, to
beat
play.
Each other up.
Right. No, and if somebody gets injured and it's a star player, or if you lose a player, then that's really bad. So the NHL has its own hardships, like concussions due to hard hits. Those are the primary concern, because you are rolling at crazy speeds down the ice and hitting these people against walls and each other and smacking each other with sticks and pucks.
And in a fun added twist, there's razor blades on your feet.
And you also have weapons.
So it's good.
It's great. I'm always so worried about somebody like slicing a hand open, like heaven forbid. Horrifying.
It's happened before.
But recent studies have shown how the consequences of these concussions can, last beyond that player's retirement, which is also what they're discussing in other contact sports. It's just the nature of a contact sport. This has significant effects on the league, as elite players have suffered these after effects. One of the examples that they gave was someone named Sidney Crosby, and they were sidelined for 10 and a half months.
She said someone named Sidney Crosby, as if it's not the most famous hockey player ever.
Indeed. And we're also famously sidelined for 10 and a half months. All right. If you don't know who that is, go look it up, listener. They really are fantastic. And it is really sad, because again, you have these elites who are being paid who are playing and, doing their best. This is their career, this is their whole job, and if they get hurt that bad, they can't they can't play.
You're right.
It's a big deal. And again, it's the same as like the NFL and other sports organizations. It's just the nature. Also, on a selfish note, however, when the Sidney Crosbys of the team get sidelined, it's also bad publicity for the league and makes it really difficult for the league to market. So sometimes their popularity might go down if they're not, playing their star players, or heaven forbid they can't. Just kind of happens.
Controversial question. Do you feel like, and this goes for the National Football League as well, do you feel like the NHL adequately protects their players?
That's a great question. I can say I don't know as much about that as I wish I did, and I'd love to do more research into it. What I can say is anytime we have, and we've witnessed this even at the Providence Bruins, where somebody does get hurt, or we watched this one guy who literally they hit the puck and it smacked him in the side of the face and he was immediately bleeding. And it was like this whole thing. He got hit, and it's almost like all of the medical appeared out of nowhere. Sure. So I will say they are fast to respond. They are checking them out immediately. They are seeking proper attention immediately. So I think a lot of the times it's like, how fast are you responding to a lot of these issues and like getting the help that they need? So on that regard, I would say, yes, they're very responsive and timely. Overall, in terms of like the mitigation, I mean, they wear helmets, but a lot of the times for the regular players, they're half helmets. I mean, you see the goalie, it makes sense that they have a full face, but that's not the case for the other players. I don't know if it's just like a getting in your way kind of thing, but I mean, football does it. So,
yeah,
I think that leaves room for questions I would have as well.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think the NFL could do better even with their equipment, but that's a different topic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, again, well, and I don't know everything there is to know about it, but I definitely feel like there could be more long-term support.
Yeah.
Because like the average professional sports career is not very long.
It is not.
And I feel like once you're done, they're just like, okay, well, thanks.
Have fun figuring it out. Right. And you've got all these long-lasting issues.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I don't know if there is some kind of retirement care or like what they do, but if they don't, I highly feel like they should.
I agree.
So I don't really feel like this next part makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm just going to skip that.
Great.
Just know that player safety has been on the list. It is something that they are, taking seriously to a point, but how seriously? Not 100%. I can say that the one thing that they did do to try and remove some of the high speed collisions on ice was to mandate the hybrid no touch icing for the 2013-14 NHL season. I don't know a lot about that either. You'd have to go look it up and see what all went into it, but to that, they probably do the best they can. There's also a lot of aggression coming on. So even if you're not getting hit on the ice, you may be punched on the ice. So concussions abound from all types of experience. Even though we're out of Women's History Month now, I do kind of want to talk about women in the NHL because I don't feel like it gets talked about a lot. And there were definitely women that participated. So from 1952 to 1955, Marguerite Norris served as president of the Detroit Red Wings, being the first female NHL executive and the first woman to have her name engraved on the Stanley Cup, which is amazing.
Wow.
I know. In 1992, Manon Rhéaume, I feel terrible trying to pronounce that, and I know I butchered it, but she became the first woman to play a game in any of the major professional North American sports leagues as a goaltender for the Tampa Bay Lightning in a preseason game against the St. Louis Blues. And she was able to stop 7 of 9 shots, which is also amazing. In 2016, Dawn Braid was hired as the Arizona Coyotes skating coach, making her the first female full-time coach in the NHL. And the first female referees in the NHL were hired in a test run during the league's preseason prospect tournaments in September of 2019. 2016, the NHL hosted the 2016 Outdoor Women's Classic, which was an exhibition game between the Boston Pride of the National Women's Hockey League and the Le Canadiens of the Canadian Women's Hockey League, as part of a 2016 NHL Winter Classic weekend festivities, which is a mouthful, but amazing all the same. In 2019, the NHL invited 4 women from the US and Canadian Olympic teams to demonstrate the events in All-Star Skills competition before the All-Star game. Due to Nathan MacKinnon choosing not to participate following a bruised ankle, Team USA's Kendall Coyne Schofield competed in the fastest skater competition in his place, becoming the first woman to officially compete in the NHL's All-Star festivities. Wow. The attention led to the NHL to include a 3-on-3 women's game before the 2020 All-Star game. And again, going back to Manon, she returned to perform as the goaltender for the 2022 NHL All-Star Games Breakaway Challenge. Wow. So women still making history, even outside of Women's History Month and in the NHL, which is fantastic.
Very cool.
Very cool. I think so.
Sorry, I was not ignoring you. My cat was eating my chair.
No, that's perfectly acceptable. Sounds like he needs a snack, so I'm gonna let you do that and give him a break.
Sounds good. Welcome to the ad segment of this week's podcast. Normally, we have something witty to say that would segue you into the second half of the podcast, but not this time. For this ad break, we've created a random groove segment built exclusively for the vibes. Enjoy these calming tunes before you come re-immersed in all things mediocre content.
Wasn't that nice? Always good to set the mind at ease, if only for a few seconds. We hope you enjoyed this calm transition to the next half of the podcast. See you on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. We are in the second half. Continuing on I should have said period. There's only 3 periods in hockey, but I could have said we're in the second period. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the hockey season. I had to have a good segue. All right, so this is about the hockey season and the Stanley Cup and how all of that works. So the season is structured into preseason, regular season, and Stanley Cup playoffs. For the preseason, it's generally held the last 2 weeks of September, and basically each team will play several not for the record exhibition games, kind of like a get ready to get real kind of situation.
Yeah, preseason. Yeah.
Right. The regular season, which generally runs from early October through April, makes the teams play 82 games to determine their standings. So this is like any other sport. You've got a determination of state, like March Madness or I totally forgot the word Super Bowl for a second. So anyway, it's kind of like that. And then the 3 highest placed teams after the regular season from each division, and then 2 wild card teams per conference, which we'll talk about, enter the playoff in an elimination tournament to determine anemone. The Stanley Cup champion. It's so hard to say tournament to determine. My mouth just doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yes, so elimination, Stanley Cup champion. Great. Awesome. As I've been discussing just a little bit, we're going to talk about teams, locations, and how they're kind of split up. There are 2 conferences and 4 divisions. The 2 conferences are literally just East and West. So it's just the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And then for the Eastern Conference, there's the Metropolitan Division and Atlantic Division. And for the Western side, there's the Central and Pacific Division. And each of those have a different lineup of teams associated. For the Eastern Conference Metropolitan Division, you have the Carolina Hurricanes, Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Washington Capitals. Like, you see my mouth just trying to do that weird thing, Capitals.
I'm so excited about this one, the second one, because I have a
okay.
joke. Anyway, go ahead.
So for the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division, there's the Boston Bruins, Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, Florida Panthers, Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Toronto Maple Leafs. What's your comment? Constant comment.
So Buffalo Sabres is spelled like Saber in The Office, where they mispronounce it historically as Sabres. And the first time I looked at it, I was like, it's the Buffalo Sabres.
It is not the Buffalo Sabres. It is not that. Nice try, though.
I think it's nice. I think it should be the Sabres.
Well, now you've ruined it for me, because that's all I'll call it now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
For the Western Conference Central Division, there's the Arizona Coyotes, Chicago Blackhawks, Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, St. Louis Blues, and Winnipeg Jets. And the Western Conference Pacific Division is Anaheim Ducks. So there is a Duck team. Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings, San Jose Sharks, Seattle Kraken, Vancouver Canucks, Blair's favorite, and Vegas Golden Knights. And that's all the teams, and it's a mouthful.
The San Jose Sharks is, so I saw a Pittsburgh Penguin game where they played the San Jose Sharks, and the Sharks, like, for their intro, they had like shark fins like that were projected onto the ice, and it looked really cool.
That's the thing. So if you also want to see another amazing introduction for a team, look up the Seattle Kraken, because they have a giant like octopus arm that they lights up in the middle of the ice rink. And it looks like it's cracked up into the ice. It's like super cool. Highly recommend it. It's a very fun watch.
What we're saying is go to the hockey game for the light show ahead of time, and then you can leave.
It's true. When they introduce the teams, it's a lot of fun, because each team has their like special way of doing things when it's a home game. So highly recommend. Also keep in mind that these are the NHL teams. So for example, like I talked about in the intro of things, there's the Providence Bruins, but they move up to the Boston Bruins for the NHL.
I think that's called, and I don't know if it's different for hockey, but for baseball, it's called a farm team.
Right. Essentially.
And, so basically you get
contracts and scouts and exactly.
So if you're familiar with baseball, it's like that.
Exactly. Now for positions. This is important because, like we talked about in the beginning, when it was being founded and kind of setting it off apart from its previous association in Canada, there was one position that was eliminated, which was the rover position. So a rover was a position in ice hockey used from its formation in the late 19th, early 20th century. And at the time, ice hockey consisted of 7 positions, along with the goaltender, 2 defensemen, and 3 forwards. Those positions are still in use. The rover, unlike all the other pieces of the team that had specific duties, was exactly what it sounds like. They were just used for whatever was needed during the game at any time. So not really a set position. They would just roam the ice and address whatever they needed to address. As the skill level of players increased, however, the need for this type of position really decreased. And after it was formed in 1910, the National Hockey Association decided to just exclude it altogether. The league's successor, as we talked about, was the NHL, did the same thing in 1917. However, the Pacific Coast Hockey Association, formed in 1911, kept that. And when they were in competition with each other, or the associations had teams that were competing against other leagues, they ended up having to make a compromise during those Stanley Cup matches because one team would use it and one team wouldn't. And there were different sets of rules that applied depending on whether you did or didn't use that role. So they would just kind of alternate between the different sets of rules to make it fair for teams that still utilize that player.
Yeah. It's like in baseball when the American League doesn't, or what is it? The National League makes the pitchers bat and the American League doesn't.
Right.
And then when you go to a World Series, it just depends on where they're playing.
Yeah.
And then
you just have to play by that set. Yeah. It makes it fair, but also allows them to just play how they want to play.
Exactly.
As for the other positions, of course, there's the goaltender or goalie. This is considered the main player of the entire game. Like that is the player. On the ice, who is responsible for stopping the pucks? The goalie. When shot from the opposing team, obviously. Also, the goaltender has the most creative liberties. So if you look at the goalies, you'll often see their helmets are extremely cool. They usually have a personal paint job. They can have any sort of like affiliate colors on their pads because their pads are huge, obviously, because they got pucks coming at them at lightning speed. So overall, lots of customization. They're pretty much the most prominent player. And if the other team touches the opposing team's goalie, it's gloves off. They will immediately fight. It's great. There are the defensemen. During regular play, there will usually be 2 defensemen on the ice per team, the primary objective of which is to stop the opposing team from scoring, which makes sense. And there is typically a left and right defenseman, which is why there's 2. And then the forwards, which the main objective is to score on the opposing team's goaltender. So generally the forwards are kind of on the shorter side and usually have a very quick speed on the ice. And that's so that they can get in between the players with the puck, skirt around the opposing team, and make the score. There is usually 3 forwards for the majority of the game. Each one will have, their specific positions on the ice.
It sounds a lot like soccer.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. There are specialty positions, though. They're kind of like subcategories that just kind of exist depending on if you have a particular skill that stands out on the team. Specifically, there is sniper, playmaker, power forward, two-way forward, grinder, enforcer, offensive defenseman, and shutdown defenseman. I don't want to get into the specifics. They're just subcategories dependent on skills and what you're really good at in that role. So if you want to look up more and like dive into those, feel free. But I'm going to move on to my favorite part and the final part of this ice hockey podcast, which is the leaders of the NHL. So this is data as of when I made this podcast set. So things may have changed. They've played games since, so just kind of keep that in mind. So there are team leaders and there are player leaders. We're going to do the team leaders first. So there are skating leaders that have 3 different categories that you can be considered a leader in. Goals per game, power play percentage. If you don't know what a power play is, it's when the opposing team has a player that is kicked off the ice or they're just down a player and you basically have an uneven number that you're now playing against. So you have the advantage if you have more players, obviously. If you score during this time, that's considered applicable to your power play percentage. Penalty minutes. This is more important in fantasy hockey, so I'm not going to pay it too much mind. But for goals per game, we had Edmonton Oilers at 3.93. So that's how many goals per game that they're scoring. Power play percentage is 31% at Edmonton Oilers as well. So they've led in both those 2 categories. And then penalty minutes is Montreal Canadiens at 842 minutes. Go look it up if you want to know what fantasy hockey is. There are also goaltending leaders. They also have 3 categories of skills. There are goals against, which just means anything or goalies that are under 2.25 are considered elite. I had to look up goals against. I'm still not 100% sure what it is, nor do I have a good way of explaining it. So just know 2.25 and under is considered good. That was led by the Boston Bruins at 2.11, which is pretty elite. There is the save percentage, the above average of which is 0.915%. So that save percent went to the Boston Bruins at 0.931%, which is also considered elite. And then shutouts. And shutouts is when the opposing team or whatever team scores and the other team gets nothing. Like they just do not score anything and that team takes the full game. And that went to the Carolina Hurricanes with 8 shutouts so far.
Wow.
I know. Then there are player leaders. So these are just individuals. Skating leaders, there's points that went to Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. He received 138 points so far, and this is for any goals or goal assists that they achieve. They get a certain number of points for those. He also is currently in the lead for goals in general at 60 goals. And then there is something called the plus minus rating, and this is calculated by giving the player 1 point for each even strength or shorthanded goal his team scores while he is on the ice, and you subtract that 1 point for each even strength or shorthanded goal the opposing team scores while he's on the ice. Confusing, I don't do maths. Basically, Hampus Lindholm of the Bruins is at 46, plus or minus.
Cool.
And then the final is the goaltending leaders, which is, again, goals against. Goalies under that 2.25 are considered elite. And Linus Ullmark of the Boston Bruins is at 1.95, which is astounding. He also is currently in the lead at his save percentage at 0.937%. And he also has the final one, which is wins at 35.
Nice.
So that's a whole bunch of statistics. Anyway.
Sports.
I know. Sports. Battle. Sports. Aggression. The punching. I don't know. That's the whole thing.
I like it.
It's not for everyone. It's not exactly the most riveting part, but it's my favorite because I've watched the teams recently and like get to see the stats in real time. Highly recommend if you go in person. It's great on TV, but it is nothing like going in person and experiencing a hockey game at least once.
I feel like that goes for most sporting events.
Probably.
The only time I have never experienced that is with golf, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh my God, golf. I honestly have no desire to go to a football game. They're not my thing. I feel like they last too long and I am just not that interested.
That's fair.
But I love baseball. I love
Baseball's
hockey.
Good.
Yeah, baseball's great. We went to a baseball game with you guys. That was really great.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah. But that's really all I have. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think
Perfect.
That's good. I'm so glad that you're like I'm so
Oh no,
into Oh no, I froze. Okay.
Try again.
I'm so glad you're diverting your fangirl energy into hockey.
Oh my God.
I feel like this goes very well with the argument that like men who are obsessed with sports are also fangirls. They just don't realize it.
Absolutely, they are. And also, my fangirling doesn't stop there because I've also hit a K-pop, J-pop spurt, and I'm listening to like Stray Kids and another one that I've really enjoyed recently, and I can't think of what the name is now, but fangirling is great, and I'm having a good time.
I'm so glad. I'm so happy for you. We should go to a hockey game together.
We should. I'd love to see a hockey game. I don't love the West Coast necessarily. I've also never been, so I'm completely biased just objectively, but I would love to go to one on the West Coast, specifically the Krakens.
I think we can make that happen. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I'm also going to take you to a soccer game because although it is completely different in how they play the sport, it is the same energy. Like people, especially in like California, I feel like people really get into it.
I like that.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a good experience to try as well.
I also think that would be a good experience to try. I don't think I've seen a soccer game since Chris played like upward soccer.
Wow.
Like, that's a throwback. If you'd like to throw it back, you could do that with us at our Gmail. At Mediocre
throw it back.
Connect with us and throw it back at Mediocre Content Podcast.
One hop this time.
Right foot, let's go. Left foot, let's go. Hope we don't get copyrighted with that one. You can also send us a tweet and a beat over at Mediocre Squawks, or connect with us on Instagram. I don't have anything witty for that, so it's just Mediocre Content Podcast. So just take us over there, I guess.
Indeed.
Anyway, well, we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.